Okay, so an action feedback cycle. We've all used those before. We have, I'm telling you, we have. Even if you haven't realized it, it's all just a simple equation. It's a if this, then that, and then review the response. That's all it is. But maybe it would be helpful to run through some scenarios where this could be applied. And I'm going to ask you to excuse me as I refer to my notes. Now, we're all working with teenagers, right? This is a secondary setting. So sometimes it's not so helpful to ask them, what's the matter, or what's that about, or what's going on? Because frequently we're going to get the response, well, I don't know. Now, it's actually surprising if you ask that kind of question, because as soon as you do, you engage the student's metacognition. Now, as soon as they start thinking about the fact that they weren't thinking, they're going to start to realize something about their behavior. So you can follow up with a second question. You can ask something like, what should you be doing instead? Or, is this behavior helpful? Something like that is going to make them realize what it is that they should be doing, because the behavior that they were displaying before probably wasn't something that they were really thinking that much about. But let's go through some specifics. So, we might suspect that a student's behavior is poor because they do not have a clear understanding of the content, and therefore they're finding it difficult to engage. This is part one. It's an assessment. Another assessment might be that we might perceive that content has not been presented in an approachable way, and students don't find it very useful to their own circumstances. Or here's a third one. It might be observed that certain students simply don't work well together, either because of a clash of personalities, or because they're too friendly in extracurricular circumstances. Those are three different assessments that I could have easily made within anybody's classroom. Friendship groups, students who don't engage with content because it's not projected at their level, or simply students that don't engage because they don't find the information useful. I know I've seen that in classrooms. I'm sure you have too. So then we move on to step two, which is planning. So, we plan our practice based on the behaviour that we've already observed and analysed, remembering, of course, that our student is at the centre of our practice, and that PBS is outcomes-based. So we want to ensure that we're planning to support student learning, and in the classroom, and not to punish them. We also don't want to be giving any kind of feedback to the operant behaviours that they've been displaying. So to come back to our scenarios, we might plan for the first scenario to scaffold content for students who we perceive to have a poor understanding of the content. We offer new content at a more suitable level, or we give students an opportunity to engage with content at a level at which they're more comfortable. Easy. For scenario two, we might use our knowledge of students' interests to engage them in the content. So, if I were to give you the example of sport, if you're teaching in a maths class, you might offer the equations in a scenario that revolves around a student's interests in sport. That's a simple one. Third scenario? Easy. Let's just move them. If two students are not getting along, or if they're getting along too well and therefore they're not being productive, we split them up. We don't make it a punitive thing. We don't turn it into a punishment. We just ask them. We let them know exactly how we're feeling, and we ask them to move. If they don't move, then we engage them in a conversation, and we ask them things like, do you guys know what you're supposed to be doing? Do you think that the behaviour that you're displaying at the moment is correct? Do you think that anything that you're doing in class at the moment is conducive to your learning? Chances are they're not going to lie to you, because they don't feel the need. So that's all that the planning is. The planning, and then the follow-through. That's steps 1, 2, and 3. So step 4 is kind of like completing the loop. We look at how effective our solution has been. Has it been very effective? or has it not been effective at all? If it's been effective, great. If it hasn't, let's review. Let's try and think of another plan, something that might be more effective.